This will be our final World Cup date, if you will, in between before we turn this back into San Diego FC coverage. They will be back in action coming up this week. Spain, world champions once again, 106-minute goal from Ferran Torres. He lifted Spain to a 1-0 extra time victory over Argentina, giving them their second World Cup title and completing an incredible tournament. Spain allowed just one goal the entire World Cup, dominated possession in the final, and completely shut down Messi in what could be the last World Cup match of his legendary career. Rodri controlled the midfield all night and was deservedly named player of the tournament, but the ending wasn't all celebration. Argentina's Enzo Fernandez was sent off late. Tensions boiled over the final whistle, and several players were involved in a post-match confrontation and confrontations as emotions spilled onto the field. In the end, though, one thing was undeniable. Spain played best football of the tournament, and they are deserved world champions. Frank, how did Spain reclaim the World Cup title?
It was an incredible match. They didn't rely on one superstar to carry them through the tournament. Instead, they trusted what has defined Spain for years, and that is possession, patience, and control. They conceded one goal throughout the entire tournament, dominated possession through the final, and completely neutralized Lionel Messi and Argentina's attack. The winning goals summed up everything Spain had built through the tournament. Pedro Porro delivered a perfect cross. Nico Williams headed it back across goal. Ferran Torres finished clinically, a true team goal from a true championship team. Argentina was nowhere to be found in that game yesterday.
And if this was Messi's final World Cup appearance, it was a difficult way for one of the greatest careers in sports history to end. Spain simply refused to let him influence the game. I mean, he barely touched the ball.
Bless you.
In the opening stages, and was constantly surrounded whenever he found space, and never found a rhythm that defined the rest of his remarkable tournament. It's not an indictment of Messi. That's just kind of a credit to Spain of just how good they had been. And it wasn't just Messi. I mean, they shut everybody down throughout this tournament.
Yeah, Rodri and Spain completely controlled possession, cutting off Argentina's supply lines and forcing Messi into one of the quietest World Cup matchups of his career. And that's saying something, especially with how his World Cup started. Even in defeat, though, Messi's legacy remains untouchable, a World Cup champion, multiple Copa America's championships, and one of the greatest playing careers the sport has ever seen. So this would probably be a lot more of a sting for Lionel Messi individually had Argentina not won in Qatar in 2022. But still, this was a bad game, not just from Lionel Messi, but from Argentina, who picked the worst time in this tournament to play their worst match of the tournament.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the final will also be remembered for Argentina just completely acting like, I don't know, children, I guess. I mean, they've completely lost their composure at the end. I mean, midfielder Enzo Fernandez received a second yellow card late in regulation after a reckless challenge on Spain, leaving Argentina to play with all of extra time with 10 men. Spain took full advantage of that. After Torres scored the winner, emotions boiled over. Players from both sides exchanged words. Pushing and shoving broke out after the final whistle, and several Argentina players were involved in confrontations instead of joining the traditional post-match sportsmanship. To make matters worse, many Argentina players turned away during Spain's trophy celebration rather than acknowledging the new champions. Very disappointing conclusion for a team that had represented its country so passionately throughout the tournament. I think that was embarrassing for soccer. I think it's embarrassing for them. And, it's if that's what we're going for in the future, that's embarrassing for all of sports if we're going to make this the sportsmanship of the losing team.
Yeah, that was a sore loser moment on a world stage for Argentina. And I mean, it's frustration because of the match and how the match was played out. And it wasn't even really anything bad. It was just Spain just completely snuffed them out. Anything that Argentina tried to do, Spain had multiple answers for it. And Argentina did get close. They almost scored a miracle goal right at the very end to be able to push it to penalties. But even still, I mean, that's just frustration, not of the way the match was officiated, which I thought was fine, uh, not of, just of anything that Argentina necessarily did wrong. It's just frustration that the other team, Spain, had their number, and they had an answer to everything that Argentina tried to throw out at them, to the point where, Argentina just to the point where they started, because you're getting to that point towards the end of the half, and they were talking about it on the broadcast, that every second that goes by, the game starts flipping into Argentina's favor because they have a world-class goalkeeper. They're very good on penalties. All they have to do is just not lose it and not explode. And that's exactly what they did. So, I mean, even as the game was going into their favor, the frustration of how good Spain was just boiled over. And unfortunately for Argentina, it didn't look good at the end.
Rodri named player of the tournament. We talked about Mbappe maybe trying to put on a show to win the Golden Boot. We talked about Jude Bellingham also being able to do that maybe in the third place game. Messi, I think if Argentina had won, probably would have had a good shot at winning it. But it was Spain midfielder Rodri that got it done. It was very hard to argue, but why did he win?
He was fantastic. It uh, dictated games from start to finish, broke up attacks, controlled possession, frustrated opponents all throughout the tournament, and most importantly, he made Spain's system work. The Ballon d'Or winner reminded everyone why great midfielders don't always need goals or assists to completely dominate a match. If you can direct traffic and successfully implement a tactical idea, that could be just as important as putting your name up on the score sheet.
World Cup finally comes to a close. Spain is the winner, and now the countdown to Italy taking over as the world champion starts. Isn't that right, Frank?
Yes, 2030, here we come.